What's going on, everybody? Kofuzi here in Guttenberg, Iowa, 3 p.m. Chicago, June 19th, 2020. How's everybody doing? I am back up in the second floor of the house, not in the basement, and I'm streaming to you live with cellular data. Hopefully that gave us pretty good luck at the end of yesterday's session, so I'm hoping that carries over till today. It is a lot warmer in here. I'm already kind of like hot. So we'll see how long I can last up here, but we'll see how it goes. How's everybody doing today? Good to see you all here. We've got Inez Dunbar's here, Tony Yu, Luis Becerra is here as well. Stevie76 says, yo, what's going on? Frank LeHoulier, LeHoulier, right? Am I saying it right? I hope that's how I said it right. You told me how to say it yesterday. LeHoulier. Jazzy says, yo, from Montreal, Canada. What's going on, Jazzy? Kai Smithley says, let's go, it's starting. And Larry Mull says, yo, what's going on? Cool. Nathan Ennis here. Shannon's here. Mark Soundcheck is here. Inez says, hello, Kofuzi and everybody. Carson Chang, Jason says, and Greg's here. Yo Fuzi says, hydrate, brother. Yeah, I definitely need to hydrate. Today, I went for a run and I got it. I'm lucky that I got it in because it's been raining on and off all day today. Fortunately, we haven't seen any lightning or thunder. But I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to really juggle to move the day around because it's been raining so hard. But when it came time to run, the skies looked relatively clear, but it was super hot and humid. So that was hard for me to kind of deal with because there hasn't been too much humidity here. But also, my legs are just not feeling great right now. They're just sluggish and tired. And I think part of it was yesterday. After my run, I don't think I really took care of myself. I don't think I've been taking care of myself well enough the past couple of days, just in terms of like refueling, making sure I'm resting right, eating right, hydrating right. So um, it definitely is catching up to me today. So I'm trying to make a better effort to like make sure I'm staying hydrated, make sure I'm eating enough to make sure I have like enough to kind of keep fueling my runs. HGRCDO says, yo, Kofuzi, Frank Lampard, not the coach, checking in. Very cool. Good to see you, Frank. Catherine AM is here as well. And Stevie76 asks, did you mow the lawn? I did mow the lawn. I think I did it okay. I'm pretty sure I mowed, and I'm not exactly sure where the property boundaries are. So on the side lawn, I mowed to where it looked like the grass was like different. But then I looked at kind of like some of the other like potential property markers, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm like 2 feet over, 3 feet over the line." So I'm pretty sure I messed that up. And then in the back of the house, it's not really clear where the property boundaries are. So I just kind of like mowed a little bit, and it's darker over there. It doesn't get as much sun because it's right against the bluffs and the woods, and there isn't as much grass. So I just didn't mow parts of it back there. Then there was the trimmer, like the little thing. It's like a stick with a spinning like fish line on it, and it like cuts the you know grass and stuff that you can't get your mower by. Yeah, I'm having some vocabulary issues here. I got that out, and I thought I did a decent job with it. And then my wife said, "Good job with the lawn. Hey, you didn't do the trimming." And I was like, "I did do the trim part." So I had to go and do a second pass on it. So, but it's done. It's done. Steve Wiley says, and more importantly, in which shoes? I did them in the Mizuno, the Wave Riders, because I felt like the lawn is very hilly. There's parts of it that are very, very hilly. And so, yeah, Martha said, I think it's called a weed whacker, not to be confused with weed whacker. Yeah, I call it a weed whacker. Oh, running with AJ and Max says in Australia we call it a whippersnipper. Interesting. I like the name of that too. I'm used to weed whacker. Um, but I used the Mizuno Wave Riders to mow the lawn because I felt like the way that it locks down your ankle, I felt like that'd be really good because parts of this lawn are very, very steep. And I thought that would be helpful. And I felt like it was. And then I was out there mowing the lawn. The neighbor on the other side, not the side that I had the property issues with, but the neighbor on the other side, um, he started mowing his lawn at the same time that I started mowing my lawn too. And I didn't know if it was like I'll show this guy. I'm gonna show how good I am at mowing my lawn or whatever. But his lawn is like a golf course fairway, flat and like just really smooth and very neatly trimmed. It's a beautiful lawn. Um, like he's mowing it, and I don't see like it's getting any shorter or not, but he's been out there, and he's been actually out there. That's the third time I've seen him mow in 2 days because I felt like, well, he's got a big yard, so maybe he just took it in portions, and then he did another portion on the third day, which I thought was the same as the second portion he did on the first day. I don't know, but yeah, we had some nice like neighbor banter, small talk about mowing lawns. I tried to do that. I didn't want to reveal to him that I felt like I should have revealed to him that I'm not a good lawnmower. I don't have experience. But I also didn't want to reveal that I don't have a lot of experience. If I had revealed to it, it would have maybe like, maybe he would have been a little bit more forgiving. But he's probably like, that guy does not know how to take care of grass. And it's true. I don't. Anyway, Jazzy says they call it a whippersnipper in Canada. Awesome. Awesome. Martha asks if I did it in the 2-inch shorts. I didn't. Gavin Braden says they call it a strimmer in the UK. Interesting. Kai Smithley says, has anyone here run in the Saucony Ride ISO or the Ride ISO 2? If so, what did you think? I ran in both of them. The Ride ISO 1 I felt like I enjoyed the shoe a lot, but it was a really hot shoe. It was so hot. It's the first shoe that I realized, oh, some shoes can be hot. That was the one that alerted me to it. And it's not so much that it was terribly hot. In fact, I don't think that it's probably more hot of a shoe than say the Tram 17, which I also think is a bit of a hot shoe, like temperature wise. Um, but they only release it like in late June or like this time of year. So like yeah, mid to late June. Um, and so they release it at like the hot part of the summer. So uh, it exacerbates it. The Ride ISO 2 solved a lot of the heat issues, but it also became a stiffer shoe, a more rigid shoe. Like there wasn't as much torsion in it, and I felt like that it made it feel like you were running on like this, not instead of like your foot like hitting the ground and moving naturally. It was just like kind of flappy. Um, and so I didn't like the Ride ISO 2 as much. My favorite was the Ride 10, the GTX version. But then again, that's a ride shoe that I ran in the winter. So a lot of the heat issues weren't there. But I like that one. I'm very excited about the Ride 13. Some of you have mentioned it already. I know a lot of colors are out, even a grayish, almost black version. But I'm gonna wait because I think that the blackout version, the one that matches the other, like the black with the gray midsoles, that they've been putting out this year, I think that is coming soon. So I'm gonna wait on that. Brendan Cam says, I think you'll really like the Ride 13. Very smooth and natural gait cycle. It's comfortable, says MC 1796. I hope so. I'm looking forward to it. It's one of those shoes that's like, it's not like a super exciting shoe, but I really enjoy it and I want it to be as good as, I mean, that Ride 10 has a lot of sentimental value for me in it too. Um, so I'm hoping that it's a shoe that can like regain some of that, you know, initial fondness that I had for it. Someone asked if I kept track of how many steps it took me to mow. I didn't keep track of that. Although I probably could figure that out. I think with Polar, because it keeps track of you all day long, as most GPS watches do. So I could probably go back and extrapolate how many of my steps happened in that time. But no, I didn't really track it. It took me over an hour to mow the lawn. So that's if that's anything. The other thing that was that this lawnmower, my mother-in-law's lawnmower, is propelled. So like when there's a thing to hold it to make the engine run, and then there's another thing that you also hold. So here's a regular handlebar. It has one bar that you hold down to make it run, and another bar that you pull up from the bottom to make it go, and then you can like release it a little bit to control like the throttle. So like sometimes I could just push it. Sometimes I would let it pull me along. So it wasn't too bad. MC 1796 says, Kofuzi, what do you think about youth competitive running? I just watched a video of an 8-year-old run sub 225 and 800. Made me feel insecure, lol. I think that it's great that it exists for people, and I think that's going to be like the next thing that we see, just because with like, I mean, think about like all like Tiger Woods starting to play golf at like age 3. people like specializing in baseball, like the specialization of kids in sport is happening earlier and earlier, which I don't think is a great thing, but I think it's where it's going to end up going. My concerns about it are that the overall longevity and health of the runner over time. Now, granted, there's lots of runners that run maybe not competitively, but run really hard from a very early age, and people have been doing that for a long time. But I worry if we're constantly in like indoor, outdoor, like cross country, indoor, outdoor seasons, and we're doing that, and then after that, it's the summer training, and then it's year round running at a high level from a very young age. That I'm not so much worried about burnout. I'm worried about the overemphasis on short-term goals versus lifetime miles. So that's more my concern. So like, when you think about like how good high school cross country kids can be when they train together and train in groups and all that stuff, um, I think it's great. But it's like, whose goals are they really keeping in mind? Like the kids, like long-term, like lifelong running goals, or are they putting the kids like I don't care what happens to them when they get to college. I just want to get them a scholarship to go to college. Like sometimes like those things are countervailing interests. So that's the only place where I'm concerned. All right. Sorry, that was a very long-winded answer. I'm sure you didn't want all that. I think it's cool. I think it needs to be very closely watched, and I hope that there are very good coaches that are doing that. Richard Smart says, "Greeting from Harker Heights, Texas." What's going on, Richard? Good to see you again. Let's see, we got Chris Fights Diabetes says, "Your next challenge, mow at sub 10 minutes." Yeah, I mean, it would be cheating because I have a propelled mower, so that doesn't work. And then yesterday when we were talking about like getting ready to mow the lawn, someone said like get a robot mower, and I was like, if I like, I probably wouldn't do that if when living out here, but like depending on where I lived, I might get one because I don't really enjoy lawn care. Some people really like it. I could see why people like it. It's very relaxing. I didn't enjoy it though. But yesterday, all of a sudden, I started seeing all these ads. We'd only talked about it, but I started seeing all these ads for robot mowers. I saw like a news. I think I saw a news article first, and maybe I clicked on it, and then I saw ads. So maybe that's why I got it. All those ads for it. But Franklin Hoolier says, even junior high cross country seems weird. Yeah, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with it too. Like I ran track in junior high school, and it was basically, I mean, it was basically like daycare, like after school daycare kind of thing. It wasn't that organized. We had a handful of really good runners. Um, it was like a way of like kind of like pre-screening for when kids got to high school, like for the coaches to know who to like really look out for. But for the rest of us, it was just kind of like a place to go and be till our parents came pick us up, or till we took like the late bus to get home. Um, and in that sense, I think it's great. But like I think when it gets too serious too early, I'm a little bit concerned. Um, in the same way that I'm concerned about young baseball players that pitch at a high level very early. I just think that it puts a lot of torque and pressure on the joints in the arm that you can very easily trade success at a very young age for success or even just quality of life at an older age. So that's just a similar concern. Let's see. Dennis Chick says, "Hola, señor Kofuzi, ¿cómo estás? Saludos." I'm doing well. Thank you very much. Hope you're doing well as well. Doing good as well, Denise. CV76, I hope my kids get a scholarship in something. Um, we've been watching so much High School Musical at our house, and so anytime I hear the word scholarship, I think about the conversation that Troy Bolton, the main character, has with his dad about like, and those scholarship scouts are going to be there. You know what a scholarship's worth these days, right? Like I don't know, it's not even like that. Like I mean, I guess it's an important theme in the movies, but like it's just like a weird kind of like throwaway line. But that anytime I hear the word scholarship, that triggers that. EL says, "What do you think of Strava taking away features for the free subscribers?" I think that's unfortunate that they did that. I think that they should add more features to the existing ones. Like I feel like you guys went down a way, um, and said like, "We're not going to put ads in the feed." And they had the weird thing where like you could have like a somewhat sponsored kind of post that would show up. I don't know how it happened, but on some of my Polar ones too, it would show up. And I saw some of them on like on Koros, it would show up sponsored, even though Polar doesn't sponsor me. Um, I think it's like if you like have a Polar watch, it would kind of show up that way sometimes. I'm not sure. Um, I think that's what I saw. I don't know if I remember that correctly. Maybe I'm remembering that wrong. But like they had some ways they were trying to make money, but you had this great feature set. And then I think make those feature sets even like add something to that to make it more interesting. So like they added local legends, right? So like I think that's kind of a cool thing to add on top of like leaderboards. So you don't have to be the fastest, you just have to be the most consistent or like just do a segment the most. So I think that's like a good way to kind of like do it. Um, but I think that like Strava has been around for so long at the I think that like no matter what they did, people were going to be mad. But I also think that they didn't do it. I give it an average. Like they did okay. Um, I would have rather see them like give more to subscriptions than take away from free. CV76 says I learned how to make toasted cheese sandwich in home economics in junior high. Awesome. Um, let's see. I think that's in reference to something that I missed early. Kai Smithley says, junior high cross country was competitive. Now I'm the number one on my high school team. That's awesome. That's cool. Good luck. I hope you have continued success. That's very cool, Kai. Tony U says, can we make Friday Freestyle Fridays? I don't know how to freestyle, so it's always something that I wish I knew how to do. And I think that part of it is not so much that I don't know how to do it. I think that like, you have to have that kind of facility or like experience with words that rhyme and phrases that can kind of go together in the right kind of like syncopation. And I just never practiced that. And so I think that's my issue. Kurt C says, I coach a bunch from second grade through high school, and it really depends on the area they are in. I'll follow with some more, but the younger ones, for sure, it's a way for them to be intro to the sport. Yeah, I like the way that it's been introduced, that it can be introduced. And I just coincidentally, I've listened to a couple of different podcasts the past couple of days. I've been reading a ton of audio books lately, and then I've been in between books, so I just listened to a couple of podcasts. On like every single podcast that I listened to, people talked about how their introduction to running was not so much like being on a track team, but more like having um, like there was a track team, but it wasn't so much like they were specializing, or it was a situation like a summer camp where you like had to try everything at least once. And so, whose was I listening to yesterday, where they're saying that they really liked it because you would go through and you had to do everyone had to do all the events in this younger kind of exposure to track and field. And they were like, it was great because then the bigger kids would do good at some of the field events where you were throwing things. And then the smaller kids would tend to do better at the distance events. And then, so like everyone had an opportunity to excel at something that was more natural to them. And everyone that excelled at something also had exposure to something that they wouldn't be good at. So it taught you winning and losing at the same time. And so I was like, that's really brilliant. And I really like that. And then I was listening to another podcast this morning about a woman who went to summer camps growing up, and they did kind of the same thing where they had to go and try you had like an hour and a half at each different sport. And so you just tried a whole bunch of sports. I love things like that. And it is a great way to introduce kids to the sport. I think that's pretty cool. Robert Alessi says, hi from New York. Question, do you ever do more extreme or unique training methods, i.e. like a weighted vest or something like that? I don't. The closest thing I would say in terms of extreme is I run all year round in the Chicago winters. Now I know there's colder winters out there. Um, so it's not the coldest, but it's pretty cold. And I run year round. So that's kind of extreme because it can get cold and windy. But the only thing I do that's similar to a weighted vest is I run commute. And so that ends up putting some weight on my pack as I run. And normal times when I'm working, majority of my runs are run commute. So I'll run like 4 or 5 doubles in the week um, to run commute, and that's with a pack on. So that's kind of like what a weighted vest. Um, yeah. Um, let's see. Daniel Sudo said, my introduction to running was high school wrestling. I feel like, speaking of extreme training, that's probably the most extreme kind of running you could do is running the way wrestlers run. Um, that is a gung ho group of athletes, I would say. Um, yeah, wrestlers are a unique group of people. Negro says, should I still get, and that's an odd name, but I don't, you've been here a couple of days and I'm kind of avoiding the username, but he says, should I still get the Vaporfly 4% Flyknit? I liked the Vaporfly 4% Flyknit. People said it was hot and then it collected water. I didn't think it did, so I really liked it. It was one of my favorite. My Ekiden version one, it was white with like the orange, like the burnt orange swoosh. I really like that one. That's probably one of my favorite pairs of shoes. Although it did dig into my ankles a little bit, and one day it got bloody. And it was not pretty. Um, Steve Whitey says, the ads on my feeds are for dolls and pram, and my daughter used my Mac this morning. That's so funny. uh, um, awesome. Shannon says, hey, coach, just got my 4th pair of Torn 4s today, not plush. Plush, I have 5 of the 4s. Oh, wow. Super bouncy, ready to race a virtual half tomorrow. You would love them. You know, Shannon, I did get another pair of Ultras. I got a shipment yesterday of 4 different pairs of shoes. Um, Only one of which was sent to me, so it was a very expensive week. And one of them is a pair of Ultras. It wasn't the Torin though. You'll have to wait and see what that is. That'll be a surprise. But it's coming up. I hope I made a good choice. I think I made a good choice. Well, we'll see. Um, Ed Chan says, happy Friday, everyone. Speaking of podcasts, any good running related podcasts anyone would like to recommend? It's a good question. I like Lindsay Hines. I'll have another. I like Matt Chittum. I've been also listening to Carrie Tollefson's See Toll Run podcast as well lately. I like that one. I think my favorite right now, though, is Mario Fraioli. Um, he is about my age. I think I'm maybe 3 or 4 years older than him, but we're both from the East Coast, and like I feel like I relate to him a lot. And I like his approach. I like his approach to his interviews, and he has a lot of coaches on, and so I really just like to hear things from like the coaching perspective as well as from like the athlete's perspective. But it just gives you something different, and so I've been really enjoying his. Kurt Steege says, I had this amazing coach when I was a kid that really helped me love the sport. I'm 51 now and still love the sport so much, and he was just a great person. That's amazing. That's a great story. Very cool. Very cool. You know, I think one person that if like I do start doing interviews again, that I would love to be able to get back on is my old high school track coach. Um, I'll have to follow up. He was blogging for a little while. He was trying to get he was trying to win the national title for his age group in the 800, and I think he came in second. I remember a race report from it, and it was pretty exciting, and because it was a guy like he knew he'd been on this like senior circuit with this guy before, so he knew him and he was familiar with him, and it was great to hear his perspective on him. But I'd love to have another conversation with him. I'll have to follow up. I'm friends with his son on Instagram still. I mean, because his son ran, he was a year younger than me, um, and his son ran track as well. He was a distance runner. So we don't really keep in touch though, but maybe we'll see if I can make that happen. Awesome. Sorry, I'm just kind of scrolling through. It's hard to because like they scroll up and down on the screen, and so like to get to them, I have very like it's like a lot of this. So sorry about that. Mark Soundcheck says, "What do you think of the Solomon Sense Ride trail shoes?" I took those out for the first time today. Sense Ride 3. I couldn't figure out what to do with the lacing system. That was a little bit different. It's like one of those fast lace systems, and then I didn't couldn't figure out where to like put the the rest of it. So I think there's a part on the tongue where you can like tuck them in, and I tucked them in there. So once I got that figured out, um, I think that they're really good for the terrain out here, for rolling hills, dirt roads. Today it had rained, and so things were a little bit softer, and that was perfect for that. I wouldn't mind if it were even a little bit muddier or a little bit softer for that shoe. But they don't have a rock plate. I'll have to go check before I make the video about them tomorrow. But like, I don't think they have a rock plate because I definitely did feel some rocks here and there. But I also found myself looking for softer stuff, the rockier stuff, the stuff that I've been avoiding in my regular road shoes. I was looking for that with the Sense Ride, and I was really enjoying it. I especially enjoyed them on rocky downhill slopes um, as well. I mean, they were good. They were good, but there were some like Solomon doesn't tend to fit me very well. There's some like fit issues, areas that are pinching and chafing that I think will go away, but out of the box are not like my favorite in terms of upper fit. But the shoe I think is exactly what I need for out here. Let's see. Dave says, checking in from Wales. I'm looking to start recording some of my runs in the mountains. How are you feeling with 360 shots? Do you have two cameras? Any beginner tips? I do have two cameras, but just for my own sanity, I only bring one of them at a time. So I kind of make an election at the beginning. Do I want, basically, the trade off is, do I want 360 footage, which is fun and very flexible and lets you do some creative things, or do I want clear footage? And so when I'm doing like a shoe review, I'd rather have a good, clean product shot. So I bring the GoPro for that. The GoPro is just a lot easier to use and faster to work with in terms of the overall editing workflow. So unless I have a reason to bring the 360, I default and most often bring the GoPro Hero with me. Um, let's see. Um, all right. Paul Kane says, for good podcast, the Running Hub on Spotify, Andy Ranner's The FOD Runner. I've actually never listened to his podcast. I'll have to do that at some point. Um, I know that like there is a very vibrant running podcast community in the UK. Um, and they have lots of conversations and they're all always on each other's channels. And I think that's very cool. I just haven't had a chance to dive in. Um, let's see. Um, Jen from Moss says, the Ekiden 4% was how I found Kofuzi in the first place. I wanted to learn more before buying, and after watching Kofuzi review, I was sold. Still my favorite and best shoe. It is a good shoe, isn't it? It's just very, very pretty. I'm very partial to all like the white Vaporfly, the white Flyknits, any kind of like, I mean, not Flyknits, but like white, yeah, Flyknit, the material. I just like it a lot. And I like that shoe. Jody Run says, Bad Boy Running is a good one for UK, which is good and has lots of funny bits to lighten it up. Yeah, I think Bad Boy Running, though, isn't that one really long, like every time? Like, I was trying to remember. It was right after, what year was it that Sinead Divers was like in the lead at a marathon at one point, and everyone's like, who's this lady? Why is she all up in the front? And they're like, this lady's gonna die so fast. And then she was like, led the race for a long portion of it. But right around that time, everyone was like, oh, if you like Sinead, because I thought she was amazing. And everyone's like, if you like Sinead Dever, she's been on this podcast, check this out. And they would send me a link, and it would be for like a 3 hour long podcast with no like indication of where in the 3 hours like her conversation was. So I was like, oh, this is hard to find. But some of the podcasts are really long. I don't know if Bad Boy Running's like that. Maybe I'm remembering it incorrectly. Let's see. Tony Yu says, ever had any close calls while running, i.e. almost hit by a car? I would say no. I don't think so. I'm trying to think. No, nothing that comes to mind. Frank LaHoulier says, there's a pocket on the tongue. Yeah, I found the pocket, but it just seemed like a very weird way to handle the laces. So I'm going to keep looking at it a little bit more. Maybe I'll look something up on YouTube on how to do it. That's probably what I'll end up doing. embarrassingly enough. Rico De Vega says, hello, hello. What's going on, Rico? Sean Cole says, how come the Pegasus 37 makes my calves sore, but my New Balance 880s don't? Um, 880s. The 880s, I think, I don't know what the heel drop is on the 880, but the 880 is kind of a max cushion shoe. So it's like a little bit of a stripped down cousin to the 1080, which is a max cushion shoe as well. The 880 version, I think is it 10 that they're on this year, reminds me a lot of the 1080 version 9. So it's kind of like that like bunch of fresh foam in the shoe. And so that might be why, because it's a much softer shoe. Pegasus 37 is React foam, and when the React gets really thick like it is on the 37, I know they say the stack height's only so much, but I don't believe that number. It just seems like so much stack height on the 37. When React gets that thick, it reminds me a lot of like the Zoom Fly Flyknit, which also had a very thick amount of React in it. I think it kind of takes a little bit for, I don't think it's the React that's like getting softer. I think your body's getting used to that, how the React is. That's my opinion. All right. Yeah, Kai Smithley says high stack height, maybe. I'm with you. John James says, I just signed to do the 330 grit challenge mileage. Yeah, I mean, 300 miles is not a joke. That's 10 miles, that's averaging 10 miles a day. It's a lot. I've only done it maybe a handful of times. So it'll be a lot, but it'll be fun, I think. And to do it in the summer when it's hot, it's going to be interesting. But awesome. Good luck to you. I'll see you in the competition there. Yeah, Ines Dunbar says, bad boy running is really long. About an hour of chat before the guest comes on. Yeah, see, that's the one I was thinking about. Emily says, do you like Yeezys? What kind of shoes do you like for everyday wear? For shoes for everyday wear, I usually just wear older running shoes, or I will wear, sometimes I'll wear like running inspired casual shoes. Like for a while I was wearing the Nike Element React 87. I really like that one. But in Chicago in the winter, it gets pretty gross. So what I wore like all winter long, because the winter wasn't actually that bad this year, was a pair of like Timberland boots that were a little bit more like sneaker inspired. And so that I really liked. So that kind of thing is something that's a little bit more useful for me. So that's kind of what I would be wearing. I love Chuck Taylors. I For a while I was wearing Keds. Those are nice. So I like just wear the basic stuff for when I'm just casual shoes. Charles Ventura says, what do you recommend for my first ultra shoe? I'm looking for something to replace my Kimbara 11s. I would go with the Escalante 2. I think the 2.5 is coming out soon, because because people have told me that it's coming out soon. But I'm also seeing the Escalante 2 for like 50% off in a lot of places. So I think that'd be a really great way to get introduced to it. And I also really enjoyed that shoe. It definitely surprised me. Mark Chancoco says Ultra Boosts are great for casual. I would definitely agree with that as well. I've been wearing the Adidas what is it? Something Edge, Alpha Edge 4D, the Death Star edition. That one, I've been wearing that around a lot casually as it got warmer too. But I left those in Chicago, so I don't have those here with me. In the summertime, I'm usually just in flip flops. Jared Crano says, we have a local 100-mile relay and 50-mile that is still on for August 22nd. Where are you, Jared? That's interesting. Very cool. Martha says, Kofuzi, since John James just brought up the grit challenge, will you create a club crew? You know, if I had more organizational skills, which having more organizational skills was one of my New Year's resolutions for 2020. But I mean, I feel like if there's any year where you could throw your resolutions out the window, it's this one. But if I were more organized, I would have done that ahead of time and had like made a team. But I didn't do that. Sorry. Super smoked, because the live stream at the same time as her kid's nap, she says, any tips for getting a toddler to take a nap? I have an interesting one. Well, it wasn't for a toddler. It was for when my older daughter was a baby. And who was I just listening to a podcast with? And it was a podcast where both the husband and wife are runners, and the husband was saying that, for one of their kids to oh, no, no, it was Nick Willis. It was, who interviewed Nick Willis? I think it was Lindsay Hyde interviewed Nick Willis. He's the person that also got hired at the same time as, what's her name? Mary Kane over at Tracksmith. He's a New Zealand 1500-meter runner, I believe, a multi-Olympian, medaled twice. I don't know if he medaled in the 1500 meters. I think that's his event. But he was, and his wife is his coach. And he was saying that when they had their first child, the baby could only fall asleep. Um, he would have to do light lunges to make the baby fall asleep. And I did the exact same thing with my older daughter. So one of the first Kofuzi non-elite training camps, um, not even the first. This was the year before it became the Kofuzi non-elite training camp because my wife used to have a work conference in San Diego every year, and so the past couple of years that we went, I don't think they're going to do that one anymore. But when I went, one time we went without the kids, and that was how Kofuzi non-elite training camp was born. But before that, we went with the baby when it was just we had one daughter, and so my wife was working all day, and it was just me and the baby hanging out for the week. And she was still nursing, and so like when my wife was at work, she would have milk for me to like. It was in the freezer. I had to defrost it, get her bottles, and all that. Usually, how she would eat to fall asleep. That was her. And I know super small. Your kid is not a baby, but to make this long story, hopefully shorter, when that wouldn't help her out, I would hold her in the baby carrier, like the front like carrier thing, which I love those things, and I would just do squats. And sometimes I have to do lunges. Sometimes I have to do walking lunges or backwards walking lunges. So my legs were really strong when my baby was a baby. My daughter was a baby, the older one. And Nick Willis said he had to do the same thing for his kid. That he would have to do like lunges. And he said that his my like 1500 PR around that time was set like the night before, like the baby just wouldn't sleep, and at 3 o'clock in the morning he was doing like nonstop lunges. And then the next day he ran a race and like set his PR and won. So um when yeah. So yeah, so it was funny. It was funny that I was like, oh, I'm not the only one that had to do that, but I definitely had to do that. And the my thinking in starting to do that was like, well, like why do babies fall asleep in car rides? So because like I would recommend that too, but super small. So I don't know if you guys have a car. We don't have a car in the city, but I don't know if you guys do. But I know a lot of my friends, even in the city, they will put their kids in the car to go take them for a drive and just drive around to get the kid to fall asleep. And I'm like, why do kids fall asleep in cars? My hypothesis is that it reminds them of like being in the womb and when the mother was like walking around and just like like gently just jostling the kids. And I felt like that was like reminiscent on why kids would fall asleep. So I would try to like do that. And then I tried to find like the rhythm. What's the rhythm that like this baby wants to fall asleep? And it happened to be like a little half lunge. And so that's how I started doing that. That was a really long way of answering that question, which I don't think was a real question, but super small. Maybe that can help. But if your kid's a toddler, I don't know if that'll work. Um, I know your kid's taller, so I don't know if that'll work. Sorry. Um, let's see. Um, Dave says, watching your 50K video, it looks like you've lost weight over the years. Congrats on being healthy. Do you think this was just because of diet or just running more? I think it was a little both, but I never intentionally set out to lose weight. It just kind of happened. I still don't really think about weight all that often. And to the extent my diet has changed, well, part of the change is when I started running like seriously again these last like 3 or 4 years ago. Um, my wife and I went vegetarian, or we're mostly vegetarian, and so that was part of it. Um, and then I also started running at the same time. And so that I'm sure, like just because you're a vegetarian doesn't mean you're necessarily healthy or you're taking in fewer calories or even better calories. But that might have been part of it too. But what I found was as I was running more, just like I started off at the beginning of the talk saying my legs have been feeling a little bit groggy and I think I've been taking care of myself. You notice stuff like that. And so you're like, all right, well, maybe I need to make sure I'm fueling correctly today so that tomorrow I don't feel the same kind of grogginess. So, like, you know, you develop the good habit to run frequently. And then that leads you to developing other good habits. Like, well, I want to have a really good Saturday morning long run. So maybe I won't have that next round or 2 or 3 rounds of drinks on Friday night. And so, like, it just kind of makes you clean up a little bit because it makes you think about like, well, what would I rather have? Like I'm having a pretty good time on a few drinks this evening. I don't need 6. So I can have 3 and then still have a pretty good run tomorrow. And that just like good behaviors lead to more good behaviors and good habits lead to good habits. That's kind of how I'm thinking about it. Yeah, and so, yeah, so it was that, and then, once you start feeling great, you run more, and then when you wanna run more, you wanna keep being able to run more, so it becomes a good cycle. Jared says, "Anyone seen the casual shoe inspired by the Alpha Fly?" There are a couple. Ben Johnson's had some pictures of it on his Instagram. It looks very strange, but I think they're gonna be insanely popular. I think they're gonna be hard to get. Um whose Instagram did I see today? Someone was flexing on their Instagram saying like they had gone for a cup of coffee in their New Balance Fuel Cell TCs. And they were like wearing them with like jeans and like a button-up shirt and like very fashionable sunglasses and no socks. I was like, that is a very weird, like that's a very weird flex. That's only going to impress a very narrow sliver of the population. But I was like, that kind of works. I like it. Um, Shen says, "Hey Ko, given you ran a 50K in the middle of the night and basically we're back to running and continuing to increase mileage, do you think you need a good recovery? Um, like, do I think I need a better recovery or like, um, I don't know. I think that I just normally run a lot, and I think that I can run a lot of mileage relative. Like, I can run this amount of mileage at this level. I can't run that much faster than this, even on less mileage. Um, and so like this is kind of like what I got. Um, so like the what I lack in like impressive times or PRs or like being able to like place in my age group, I can make up for in well, I can keep doing it every day. That's kind of like my weird strength, I think. I think the way that I run lends to me being pretty durable. So I think that's probably the best way to answer your question. I don't really take recovery days. I try not to take any days off from running if I can help it. Every once in a while I need it. And that's usually not because of the running. It's usually because of everything else that's going on in life and the running. I just need the rest. But now with like running being kind of like life being a little bit less hectic because I don't have work, I don't find that I need the recovery day. Mark Shane Coco says, on top of the cool shoes, losing weight is my second favorite part about running. And that's cool. That's cool. I hope you have continued success. Um, let's see. Rod Singh says, hey, Co, did you ever run on the New Balance Fresh Pro More? Your thoughts? I did not run on the Fresh Pro More because I was thinking about getting it. And I was talking to, it might have been Roadrunner Sports people about it, or maybe it was Fleet Feet people. Someone was talking about like, hey, we want to send you a shoe. And I was like talking about that one, and they were like, we don't know if you're gonna like that. So I was like, okay. And then Seth James Moore did a video on it, and he's like, these are not great. And so after that, I was like, nope, I don't want to do it. Now the Fresh Foam More 2 came out, and it actually looks really nice. So it has me intrigued, but I probably won't get to it. Shannon says, recover in terms of taking a good solid few days off. I mean, I don't really take a good solid few days off because I like running. And like even after a marathon race, I think that like if a marathon's on a Sunday, I'll usually like get the legs moving by Wednesday. Maybe like usually less than 5K, maybe like run jog walk on a 5K, but usually within the same week I'm up on my feet again because I like it. Um, Super Smoke says, in regards to her no nap toddler, holding him and doing squats used to be possible. He's close to 30 pounds and half my height now. That's so funny. Uh, um, Dave says, are we likely to see Mrs. Kofuzi on the stream anytime soon? Combine AMA or her take on your running? She doesn't really like to be on camera and stuff, so probably not. And I'm not going to push her on that. Jared Crano says, the Camelback Zephyr is sold out on their website. I'm looking to pick one up once they restock. They often send me 25% off email, so hopefully the timing works. I hope so too. It's been one that I've been enjoying. I don't like it with water in the front though. I ran in it in the video that came out today, and you could see how much bounce there is. And probably because I don't counterbalance it, I don't put two bottles. I always lose one of the bottles. And I lost one of the bottles on this one too. I think I left it in the hotel in Austin. But I only had one bottle, and it caused all sorts of chafing. So like right here underneath this shirt, I'm all like chewed up. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But yeah, it's been treating me real well, other than the bounce issue. But when I put the water bladder in the back, it just kind of disappears. I don't even notice I have it on. I like it. Yeah. All right. So I think that's a good place to end it for today because I am getting sweaty here and it's hot. We don't have the air conditioning on, and so like I have the window over there open, and I'm trying to get some air in here. But I'm really hot, and I ran out of deodorant like a month ago. I just never bought more, so it's not pleasant to sit in this corner just as like too much information for you guys. So I think it's a good place to end it for today. Thanks everyone. And look how shaggy like that I look. Oh man, at some point I'll get a haircut, I think. My wife keeps saying that my mother-in-law does have a set of shears, like clippers, at her house. So maybe I'll have my mother-in-law give me a haircut, like out on the deck. We'll see. But I had a good time today. Hopefully you guys had a good time today too. I'll be back on tomorrow, 3 p.m. Central Time here in Guttenberg, Iowa. Until then, hope you guys stay safe out there on your runs, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everybody.